She stares at the cardboard box, sitting in her passenger seat. He looks at the computer screen that says, "Access denied." The world looks at them and sees a statistic. The world sees someone who was let go, but heaven is whispering something very different. Heaven says you are finally unchained. This was not a mistake. This was not an accident. This was a divine extraction. God is not just clearing your desk. He is clearing your vision. He is clearing your future. You see a loss, but God sees a launch pad. You see an end, but God sees an entrance. Maybe you have spent all morning refreshing your inbox. Maybe you feel the cold weight of being unwanted. Maybe you are wondering what you did wrong. Maybe you feel like your identity was in that title. Maybe you are terrified of the silence in your house. Let's be honest for a moment. Losing a job feels like losing a limb. It feels like the ground has disappeared beneath you. You feel exposed and you feel vulnerable. But here is the truth no one tells you. God never takes something away without a plan to replace it. He is not a God of subtraction. He is a God of strategic exchange. If you are watching this, you are not lost. You are being repositioned for something you could not see. You were comfortable. In a place that was too small, you were building a house on a foundation of sand. Now, that sand is gone. It is time to build on the rock. Think about the last time you felt this afraid. Did God fail you then? Did He leave you hungry? He did not, and He will not start failing you now. This transition is not a punishment for your past. It is a preparation for your next season. The world calls it a layoff. God calls it a setup. The world calls it a termination. God calls it an invitation. You have been working for a boss. Now, you are working for a king. The king does not have a budget crisis. The king does not have a downsizing plan. His resources are infinite. His timing is perfect. I want you to take a deep breath. The panic you feel is not from God. Fear is a liar that whispers about your bills. Faith is a friend that whispers about your father. Your father owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. He knows your name and your bank balance. He knew this day was coming before you were born. He has already provided for your next 30 days. He has already scheduled your next interview. He has already opened the next door. You are just walking through the hallway right now. Hallways are quiet and they are lonely, but hallways lead to rooms. And the room God has for you is better. It is bigger than the one you left. It has more light and more peace. You just have to trust His hand. Did you catch that? This isn't just about a paycheck. This is about your purpose. You were being drained by a role that was beneath you. You were being quieted by a culture that did not value you. So God stepped in. He moved the mountain because you were trying to climb it. In this video, we are going to look at 6 signs. These signs will prove God is the one moving. This is not bad luck. This is a divine appointment. By the end, you will see your situation differently. You will stop mourning what you lost. You will start preparing for what is coming. Number 1, the peace left the role before the paycheck did, and that inner silence was God's first signal. Let me say this straight. You were already gone before they called you into that office. You might have been physically present, but your spirit had already checked out. Let's start with the truth no one wants to say out loud. You have been unhappy for a very long time. You have been trying to make a home out of a place that was only meant to be a hallway. Think back to the last 6 months of that job. You remember the Sunday night dread that started at 2 in the afternoon. You remember sitting in your car in the parking lot for 15 minutes every morning. You had to coach yourself just to open your car door. You felt a heaviness in your chest that you couldn't quite explain to your spouse or your friends. You were doing the work, but you were doing it on autopilot. You sat in those staff meetings and felt like you were watching a movie in a foreign language. You looked at the goals and the charts and realized you simply did not care anymore. It wasn't because you were lazy. It wasn't because you lost your work ethic. It was because the grace for that assignment had been lifted. When the grace leaves a place, the peace goes with it. You used to find joy in the challenges. Then, suddenly, every small task felt like climbing a mountain. You were frustrated by coworkers who used to be your friends. You were annoyed by systems you used to support. You felt like a lion, trapped in a very small cage. You were praying for a way out, but you were too afraid to walk away from the security. So, God did for you what you were too afraid to do for yourself. He closed the door because you wouldn't stop knocking on it. Sound familiar? The Bible tells us about a man named Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 17. God sent him to a place called the brook Cherith during a time of great hunger. It was a hidden place. It was a safe place. God commanded ravens to bring him bread and meat every single morning. He had water from the stream. He was taken care of while the rest of the world was struggling. It was a season of perfect provision. But then, verse 7 says something that changes everything. It says that for a while, the brook dried up. Imagine Elijah looking at that receding water line. Imagine the panic he could have felt as the stream turned into a trickle. But the brook didn't dry up because Elijah failed. It didn't dry up because God was angry. It dried up because the season was over. If that brook had stayed full, Elijah would have stayed by the water. He would have stayed hidden. When God needed him to be seen, God had a widow in a city called Zarephath who was waiting for him. He had a miracle, waiting in a different zip code. The drying brook was the signal to move. Your job loss is your dry brook. God is not trying to leave you thirsty. He is trying to get you to move to your Zarephath. He is trying to get you to the place where your next miracle is currently waiting. You were drinking from a stream that was about to run out anyway. Do not weep over a dry bed of rocks. Look up and listen for the next instruction. God is moving you from provision to purpose. He is moving you from a hidden place to a visible place. The loss of your peace was the mercy of God. It was His. The way of detaching your heart so that the separation wouldn't destroy you. You are not being evicted. You are being escorted. It was not a loss of security. It was a gain of destiny. Number 2, your gift was being used to build a kingdom that wasn't yours, and God decided that building project was over. Here is what nobody tells you. You were the engine in that office. Everyone knew it. You were the primary problem solver. You were the one who cared the most. You gave your best ideas away for free. You thought hard work would bring a seat at the table. But you were just fuel for someone else's fire. You were a pillar holding up a house you didn't own. You were pouring your oil into someone else's lamp. You felt the drain of a talent that had no ownership. You were so good that you became a crutch for your boss. You stayed until 7 in the evening. You caught every error before it went to the client. You kept the team morale high during the crisis. You brought excellence they did not pay for. You brought integrity they did not deserve. But look at the fruit of that labor. You built someone else's dream, while yours sat on a shelf. You used your fire for a table that didn't invite you. You were a high-performance engine in a car that never left the driveway. You started to feel like a ghost in your own workspace. People looked through you until they needed something fixed. They valued your output, but they did not value your personhood. You were a resource to be used. You were not a human to be honored. God watched you give your best to people who wanted your least. He saw you pouring your oil into a broken vessel. That vessel could never be filled. Maybe that is you. The Bible gives us a clear picture of this in Genesis. We see a man named Jacob. He went to work for his uncle, Laban. Jacob was a man with a divine blessing. Everything he touched turned to gold. He worked 7 years for a wife and was tricked. He worked another 7 years. He stayed for 20 years total. Laban's flocks grew because of Jacob. Laban's wealth exploded because of the gift inside of Jacob. But Laban was a taker. He changed Jacob's wages 10 times. He cheated him at every turn. He used Jacob's anointing to build his own empire. Laban saw the profit, but he did not see the person. He treated Jacob like a tool, not like family. Jacob spent 20 years making another man wealthy. He watched Laban's children grow up in luxury. Meanwhile, Jacob was still sleeping in the fields. He was still counting another man's sheep. He was still waiting for his own turn. In Genesis chapter 31, verse 42, Jacob speaks. He says that God saw his toil and the labor of his hands. God saw the overtime. He saw the stolen ideas. He saw the unfair pay. God told Jacob it was time to go back home. He told him it was time to build his own house. The job loss you just experienced is God saying that same thing. He is tired of seeing your gift exploited. He is tired of seeing his child work for shadows. He moved you so you would claim your own promise. You were building a platform for someone who denied you a microphone. Now, God is clearing the ground for your own platform. He is taking the bricks you gave away. He is putting them back in your own hands. You are no longer an employee of a system. You are an heir to a kingdom. The work you do now will have your name on it. It will have God's seal on it. You are not unemployed. You are being redirected to your own inheritance. Jacob left Laban with more than he arrived with. You will leave this season with more wisdom. You will leave with a hunger you didn't have before. The theft is over. The harvest is beginning. Enough. Number 3. The door closed with a sudden slam, and that speed was necessary to prevent you from looking back. Let's start with the truth. No one wants to say out loud. You would have stayed in that seat forever if they hadn't pushed you out. You would have settled for the safety of a paycheck while your soul slowly starved. You were waiting for a sign, but God knew you needed a shove. You were called into a room on a Tuesday morning. The human resources manager was already sitting there. You saw the white envelope on the table. Your heart started to pound against your ribs. Within 10 minutes, your email was disabled. You were handed a box for your things. You walked past your coworkers while staring at the floor. You sat in your car, and the world felt silent. You could not even think of who to call first. The transition was so fast it felt like a physical blow. You felt like you were spinning in a dark room. You felt like the rug was pulled from under your feet. You have been there. The Bible shows us this pattern in the life of Joseph. In Genesis chapter 37, verse 24, it says his brothers threw him into a pit. This did not happen over a period of months. It happened in a single afternoon. One moment Joseph was the favored son in a colorful coat. The next moment he was sitting in the dirt in the dark. There was no warning. There was no chance to pack his belongings. There was no meeting to discuss his performance. But that pit was the only road to the palace. If Joseph had stayed comfortable in his father's house, he would have died a simple shepherd. He would have never saved nations from a coming famine. God used a violent transition to move him into a global position. The pit was not the end of Joseph. The pit was the beginning of the prime minister. God had to move him quickly. So he wouldn't try to negotiate with his brothers. He had to move him completely, so he would look only to heaven. Your sudden exit was a mercy, not a mistake. If it had been slow, you would have tried to fix it. You would have begged for a second chance. You would have compromised your worth to keep your comfort. But God wanted you out. He wanted you away from that influence. He wanted you free from that ceiling. He allowed the shock to keep you from grabbing the doorframe on your way out. He is pulling you toward a palace you cannot see yet. Move. Number 4. The culture was starting to change your heart, and God pulled you out before you lost yourself. Let's be honest. You were becoming someone you did not recognize. You started keeping your Bible in your desk drawer. You stopped talking about your faith at lunch. You found yourself nodding along with gossip. You laughed at the expense of a coworker. It was a slow change. You were losing your color. You were losing your salt. You were losing your light. Think about the last time you felt truly proud. It has been a long time. You were doing just enough to get by. You were looking at your watch by 2. You were taking longer breaks to escape. You were participating in the negativity of the break room. You felt the pressure to agree with the boss. Even when the boss was wrong, you were sacrificing your peace for a position. You were trading your integrity for an insurance plan. Maybe that is you. The Bible shows us a young man named Daniel. He was taken from his home. He was brought into the palace of Babylon. The king wanted to change everything about him. He wanted to change his name. He wanted to change his diet. He wanted to change his God. Daniel, chapter 1. Verse 8 says something powerful. It says Daniel resolved not to defile himself. He chose the hard path of holiness. He refused the king's meat. He chose vegetables and water instead. He risked his life for his character. Daniel was in a plain, high-pressure environment. He was surrounded by people who did not know God, but he stood his ground. God honored that decision. God gave Daniel favor and knowledge. But notice what happened next. Daniel eventually had to leave the king's table. He had to be separated to be promoted. He could not remain a servant of appetites. He had to become a servant of visions. God saw you in your office. He saw you struggling to keep your head up. He saw the toxic atmosphere. He saw the jealousy and the spite. He saw the ways you were forced to compromise. He knew that if you stayed, you would break. You would become bitter. You would become cynical. So, he acted as your rescuer. He pulled you out of the fire. He did not wait for you to quit. He made the decision for you. This loss is actually a rescue mission. God is rinsing the bitterness out of your spirit. He is cleaning the toxins from your mind. He is restoring the joy of your salvation. He wants the version of you that smiles. He wants the version of you that hopes. You were being crushed by a weight. You were not meant to carry it. Now, that weight is gone. You can breathe again. You can pray again. You can dream again. Think about the compromise you almost made. Think about the shortcut you almost took. God saw the trap before it snapped shut. He saw the scandal before it broke. He saw the investigation before it started. He moved you to a place of safety. He hid you in the cleft of the rock. It feels like rejection from the world. It is actually protection from the Father. You are not being punished for your performance. You are being preserved for your purpose. God values your character more than your career. He cares more about your soul than your salary. He can replace a paycheck in a day. He cannot replace a heart that has gone cold. He had to get you out. He had to get you away. So the question is not why they fired you. The question is, what part of your soul was God saving? Number 5. People you relied on have suddenly gone quiet or distant, and that silence is God's filter for your future. Let's be honest. When your title goes away, your work family usually goes with it. You thought those bonds were unbreakable. You spent more time with them than your own relatives. You shared secrets over cubicle walls. You carried their stress. You covered their shifts. You were the one people came to for advice. Now, you are home, and your phone is terrifyingly silent. You sent a text to your closest teammate. They took 3 days to reply. The reply was short. It was polite, but distant. You saw the photos on social media. They all went to lunch without you. They are sitting at the same table. They are laughing at the same jokes. It feels like you never existed. It feels like you were a temporary fixture. You feel like a piece of office furniture they just moved to the basement. This hurts more than the loss of the salary. The salary was just money. The people were your community. You feel like you are contagious. You feel like your situation might rub off on them. Or maybe they are just busy. But you know the truth. The relationship was built on the building. It wasn't built on the heart. You were useful to them. Now that you aren't useful, you are invisible. Silence. The Bible chapter is the story of Job. He was the greatest man in the East. He had wealth beyond measure. He had a massive family. Everyone wanted to be near him. Then, in a single day, the fire fell. The wind blew. Everything was gone. In Job chapter 19, he describes the pain. He says his relatives have failed him. He says his intimate friends have forgotten him. Even his servants look at him like a stranger. He was the man everyone wanted to know. Suddenly, he was the man everyone avoided. Job's friends eventually showed up. But they didn't come to help. They came to analyze. They sat in the dirt and then opened their mouths to judge. They tried to find a hidden sin to blame. They were miserable comforters. They were people who could handle his success. But they could not handle his suffering. They were comfortable with the Job who sat on a throne. They were embarrassed by the Job who sat in the ashes. God was watching that silence. He was watching those friends fail, and he was doing something profound. He was stripping away the opinions of men. He was making sure that when the restoration came, Job knew exactly who sent it. God was removing the yes men from Job's life. He was clearing out the fair weather fans. He was preparing Job for a double portion. But you can't receive a double portion with small-minded people at your table. Maybe God is doing the same for you. He is letting the phone stay silent. He is letting the texts go unanswered. He is filtering your circle. He is showing you who is for you. And he was showing you who was just for your position. This is a painful gift. It is the gift of clarity. You now know who to invite into your next season. And you know who to leave in the past. Do not chase the people who left. If they could walk away, they weren't your destiny. If they could forget you, they weren't your tribe. God is narrowing your path. He is making it so small that only He can walk beside you. He wants to be your only source. He wants to be your only counselor. He is jealous for your attention right now. The silence of the world is the volume of God. He is speaking in the quiet. He is telling you that He is enough. He is telling you that He stayed. While they were deleting your email, He was writing your name. While they were ignoring your text, He was listening to your prayer. You are not alone. The people who left were just background noise. Number 6. An old dream has started to breathe again in the silence, and that stirring is God's invitation to your true work. Let's start with the truth no one wants to say out loud. You have been mourning a job while your calling was mourning you. You have been crying over a paycheck. Meanwhile, your purpose has been waiting for you to notice it again. You spent years feeding a system that did not love you. You spent decades ignoring the gift that actually defines you. Think about what you did this morning. You didn't have to check your work email. You didn't have to prepare for a morning briefing. Instead, you sat in your living room with a cup of coffee. You looked at the bookshelf in the corner. Your eyes landed on a project you started 7 years ago. You pulled out a dusty folder from under a stack of bills. You saw the notes you wrote when you still had hope. You saw the sketches, or the plans, or the ideas. You felt a strange warmth in your chest. It was a spark you thought was long gone. You went to the garage and looked at your tools. You sat at your laptop and opened a blank document. You started to type just for yourself. You realized you haven't felt this alive in a long time. You were so busy being a professional that you forgot how to be a visionary. You were so focused on your career that you lost your craft. You traded your masterpiece for a cubicle. You traded your vision for a steady direct deposit. Now, the direct deposit has stopped, and the vision is knocking on the door. Again, you know this feeling. The Bible tells us about the prophet Habakkuk. In chapter 2, verse 3, it says the vision is for an asti. It says the vision is for an appointed time. It says, though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. Your dream was not dead. It was just lingering in the hallway of your busy life. It was waiting for a time when you would finally be still. It was waiting for the noise of the office to stop. It was waiting for the noise of the office to stop. Think about Moses. He was a man of high status in Egypt. He had power, and he had wealth. He had a dream to save his people, but he tried to do it his own way. He ended up as a fugitive in the desert. He spent 40 years as a shepherd. He was tending someone else's sheep in a quiet land. He probably thought his best days were behind him. He probably thought his dream of being a deliverer was a joke. He was 80 years old and living in obscurity. But the desert was not a graveyard. The desert was a training ground. In Exodus chapter 3, God speaks from a burning bush. He tells Moses that the time has come. The dream was not gone. It was just waiting for Moses to be ready. It was waiting for him to be stripped of his Egyptian identity. God had to get the prince out of him, to get the prophet in him. Your job loss is your desert season. God is burning the bushes in your life right now. He is trying to get to your attention. He is reminding you of what He put in your heart. He is calling you back to your original design. You were never meant to just process data. You were meant to create. You were meant to lead. You were meant to heal. You were meant to build something that outlives you. Do not ignore the stirring in your spirit. Do not call it a hobby. Do not call it a distraction from your job search. This might be the very reason God allowed the door to close. He wanted you to find your way back to the loom, guest room. He wanted you to find your way back to the sketchpad. He wanted you to find your way back to Him. The silence is not empty. It is full of the things you buried. It is time to start digging. It is time to start building again. This time, you aren't building for a boss. You are building for the one who gave you the gift. Let that sit for a moment. You were not discarded today. You were deployed. God did not lose your file. He just moved it to a higher office. You aren't a victim of a bad economy. You are a student in a divine school. This transition is your promotion in disguise. He saw your toil. He knew your heart. You were not abandoned. You were protected. Those are not the same thing. To the person sitting in the dark right now, I know your stomach is in knots. I know the nights feel very long. You are looking at your bank account. You are wondering how this will work. God is with you in the quiet. He is not worried about your bills. He is not panicked about your future. He is the Father who never fails. He is here. He is already in your tomorrow. They see you in the hallway now. They see you without a title. They see you without a place. Let them look. Soon, they will see the new thing. They will see the dream come alive. They will witness the peace you found. It is coming. They will see what God saw all along. Your exit was just a grand entrance. The world will see your fruit. Just watch what He does.